Is your audio working? Are you muted?
Okay, I think my mic's on now.
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Nice.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't use Zoom very often.
Okay. We'll jump right in. Now, tell everyone who you are and how you'd like to be described. What do you do?
I'm Bonez Poley. I'm a stand-up comedian primarily. I've done a little bit of everything. I've been I guess, multidisciplinary artist for a long time. I did visual art for many years. I played in bands for many years. I've done some writing, a lot of different stuff, but comedy has been my focus for quite a while now. It's stuff, and it continues to be my main focus at the moment. So I guess that's, yeah, primarily I'm a stand-up comedian right now.
Okay. Okay. So, well then we'll jump right into talking about you've got a release date now for your uh
I
stand-up
do.
album.
Yeah. Yeah, May
So,
30th.
okay. And when people get that on May 30th, number one, what are they gonna discover on that? What are they gonna hear? Or and is it audio or video or like
Both. So
okay,
yeah, we recorded the audio and video. I'm releasing the audio album on, it'll be on all the streaming platforms. And I'm also doing a limited run of cassettes of the audio album.
okay,
And they'll have side A will be my comedy album, and the B side will be my most recent band's most recent EP, the Pisser Breaking Chains EP.
okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
So
cool.
that'll be the audio album will come out in physical format, and then the video album I think is just going to be online. You'd probably just go straight to YouTube. I
Okay,
debated, I was gonna do DVDs of the video special, and I kind of waffled back and forth on that because I know most people don't buy physical copies of things these days. And I feel like punks still do. And that's why I decided to go with the cassette tapes, because I know me and all my friends still collect all the vinyl and tapes and stuff, but I feel like DVDs might be a harder sell. So I
yeah,
wasn't sure like where to go with that. I know some people will release albums online and it'll be like you can pay to buy the digital version or pay to stream it or whatever. But given that I'm kind of at a point in my comedy where I'm still, this is my first album. Not a ton of people know me yet, so I'm leaning towards just putting it up for free and getting it into as many people's home screens as possible for now.
okay. On that, on the video side of that, I noticed that like that was all your first 4 or 5 years material that you performed that night, and some of it was already up on YouTube. And you, like, I know I had your previous article connected to the one about work, and
Oh, right. Oh,
then
shoot. Sorry. Yeah.
that's okay. I understand why you did that. So
Well, and that one actually, um, so yeah, so basically, yeah, the album is a culmination of yeah, the first 10 years worth of stuff that I've been writing and working on. But the way that that goes is the jokes tend to evolve as they go along. So jokes that I wrote 10 years ago are completely different jokes now. It's like the premise is similar and there's some similar pieces to the overall joke, but obviously the more I practice it and the better I get as a comedian, the more that the joke evolves and develops. And so part of the reason I took down some of my early videos is just because they don't reflect well where I'm at now, skill wise. But the reason I took that particular one down was actually because I had submitted a similar set to that to a comedy festival a little while ago. and they had a stipulation where if they accepted your set, it can't have already been posted anywhere.
Okay.
So, and it wasn't the exact same set I was submitting to them. It was some of the same jokes and some different stuff, but it was close enough that, you know, if they were to look into it and see if I already had it up, I wouldn't want that to be the thing that disqualified me. So that's why I ended up deciding to take that one down. And then, yeah, at this point, I'm not sure. Like, I think probably when I post the full special, I'll probably take down all my old footage because theoretically anything in the special is the better version of whatever's already up there, and it's recorded in better quality and just, you know, is a more complete product. So I think at this point I'd rather direct people to that than have them watching my old, you know, amateur videos.
So I don't remember seeing cameras go. Oh, actually, maybe I do. Did you get, like, I was pretty much front row for that. Did you?
Yeah.
I'm wondering if I can sue. If I
Well, I did tell
no,
everybody we were recording.
I know.
Pretty sure there was even signage that was posted around, so I think that gets
Yeah.
us out of any legal troubles. But um, there's no actual shots of the audience, or I think there's like one or two, but they're blurry. So it was mostly, there was a camera at the back on a tripod that was pointed at just at me, and I guess the backs of people's heads, silhouetted backs of people's heads, and then I had the guy filming the special was also floating around with a camera, so he got a few different angles, but they're mostly from the back of me or from like the side of the stage. But yeah, it's not like a full-blown Netflix quality special where we're cutting to well-lit, well-focused shots of the crowd. Like that's next special, we'll get there.
Okay.
But for now, you can probably hear your laugh, and that's about it.
Yeah, and we did laugh. It was a funny, funny set. It
Oh,
was great to be there.
thank you.
So, and you mentioned that Pisser is going to be on the other side that tape. Um, are you doing anything more with Pisser at the moment, or is it?
No, no, not these days. We we had gone on hiatus before the pandemic, and it's been a very extended hiatus. But I think at this point, I'm really happy to be focusing on just comedy. I
Okay.
think in the past, I've had a tendency to spread myself really thin, and I'm one of those people who's just my energy is constantly exploding in a billion different directions, and I always have all these different ideas and all these different passions, and that's a fun way to be, and it's great. It's fun to get a lot of stuff done, but I think where that has failed me is I was often kind of a jack of all trades, master of none. And I think where I'm at with comedy right now is I would like to be a master of at least one thing. And I think I've come a long way with my comedy, and I'm feeling really good about it. And I'm feeling like if I continue on this trajectory, then, you know, I could theoretically actually make a living off this, and maybe take it further than that. So that's where I'm at right now. And I think also now that I live in Toronto, it's even harder to be in a band here than it is anywhere else because the cost of even just a jam space, let alone anything else, is like absurd these days. So that'll remain a back burner thing for the foreseeable future.
Um, Connected to the comedy, you had been saying or hinting at acting connected to that. Is it there anything happening that way?
Yeah. So that's still something I'm keeping open. And so there's been a little bit, like there's already a bit of overlap, obviously, with acting and comedy. It's a performance, and it's when it comes to comedy writing, I'm becoming increasingly interested in writing sketch type stuff as well as stand up. So obviously there's some acting involved in that, and I have been working on co-writing a TV show with a group of comedians. I remember last time I hinted at a secret. I wasn't really at liberty to talk about it yet, and I still can't say much about it. But there is a TV show in the works, and that'll be really cool. So the show is a friend of mine. It's his concept, but there's a group of us that are working on it together, and I'm actually writing a character who I'll be playing. So yeah, that's very exciting.
Okay.
And in the meantime, I've been auditioning for just like random like commercials and stuff. I have yet to land one, but that would just be some nice extra money and extra experience on camera. It all kind of ties together. So yeah.
I'm curious about that show, which you said you can't talk too much about, but how how close is that to a reality that most of us will see, or is it
It's gonna happen one way or another. It's
okay?
yeah, we've just been kind of figuring out, I guess, which avenues we want to go as far as whether we want to shoot the pilot first, pitch it around, see if somebody will pick it up, or just shoot the whole season ourselves, like the first season ourselves, and go from there and see if somebody wants to pick it up from there. Um, there's a bunch of different factors as to why we might decide to go in one direction or the other, but it's going to happen either way. So it's just a
Okay.
matter of deciding how it's going to happen. But plan is to start filming at the very least some kind of trailer in the very near future. So yeah.
Okay, that's exciting. So yeah, and I mean, nowadays, if you do end up filming it yourself, that's very possible to do and do a good job with the way technology has gone in the
Totally.
recent
Yeah.
years.
And then you retain a lot more creative control, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, that would
So
be one very good reason to do it that way.
in the article I did before, we ended up talking about like moving away from both your music and your comedy to more serious issues that you were involved in. But in the article, a lot of it was St. Catherine's focused. Are you
Yeah.
still an active person in Toronto, or have
I
you?
would say much less so these days. I still have very staunch ethics when it comes to the way that I live my life and the things that I choose to support or affiliate myself with. But as far as like actively going out and fighting on the front lines for anything, it's been a while for me. And it's for a number of reasons, but for the majority of my life, I was kind of putting everything and everyone else before myself. And I think that's a good way to be. I think that's how, people should be. But um, there was a period where I had a lot of personal issues going on. I had a really serious illness that almost killed me, and I had a period of homelessness, and just I've had a series of like just absolute shit to wade through for a while. And so I kind of finally gave myself like the uh I don't know, like I just allowed myself to to feel like it was okay to just prioritize myself for a minute. And so that's kind of where I'm still at, is I'm still recovering health wise. Like I'm still not at 100%, so I still need more downtime than most people do, and still have a lot of days where I'm just really not feeling great. And so for me to take care of myself and then also get anywhere with my career, not to mention that I'm not making a living off stand up yet, and I'm living in Toronto. So I've got 18 side hustles just to pay the bills. So juggling all of that and then finding time to like go out and be as much of an activist as I used to be, or as I want to be, is just not really reasonable for me to put on myself right now. But I mean, that said, I still do consider myself an activist in the sense that like I don't do anything that I don't think is ethical. I still really think about like my purchases and who I'm affiliating myself with in regards to like my comedy or to anything else. And I still feel like the things that I'm saying with my comedy are, meaningful and thought provoking. And I mean, I still do small things. Like I do what I can when I can, but it's just yeah, I don't think I'll ever stop really being an activist. I just can't be like the biggest activist all of the time forever.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, and I was gonna ask that then, like whether it was something that um showed up more in your writing and your your comedy in the themes you talk about or whatever? Because I mean, nowadays, most of the time, yeah, comedians really, a lot of the time, that's, I don't know, they're the new philosophers, or uh, I don't know, they really get their ideas into the conversation through their art. And so
Uh,
is that one way you are still very active?
I would say definitely. Yeah. And I think my approach to comedy writing is similar that my approach always was to music writing. Also, side note, I think it's worth mentioning that I always make the differentiation between my music and my comedy as though my music wasn't comedy. every every band I've ever been in has been comedic to some extent, if not of the fullest extent. But when it came to my lyric writing, I would have some songs that were really serious, that were very, very much about social and political issues and philosophical ideas, and really, delving deep into these things that I was passionate about. And then I would have other songs that were like just pure silliness, just about like harassing my bass player on a camping trip, whatever. And the way my approach to my stand-up comedy has been very similar, where I have some bits that are definitely more overtly political, that are like, this is obviously about, societal injustices, and then other bits that are more like, this is just ridiculous. But what I have noticed emerging, the more I kind of look back and analyze my own writing, is even the bits that I see as totally absurdist always end up having some kind of a political or social undertone to them, because that's just who I am.
Okay.
So like, even like, I have a bit where I'm like talking about my death goals, which is just a funny idea in and of itself. Most people have life goals. I have death goals. Here's all the ways in which I want to die, or whatever. But it's like, but then I dissect like, well, here's what's absurd about our current practices surrounding death. And and shouldn't we think twice about this? And why is this okay and this isn't? And so even though I'm being so ridiculous, I still can't help but be like, okay, but guys, like, let's think about this.
What is the future of for Bonez Poley that you can talk about? That is there going to be any comedy tours outside of Toronto?
Yeah, that's the plan for sure. I do really miss touring. That's one thing I miss about being in a band. And I have done a bit of touring with comedy, but not since before the pandemic. So it was the past year has definitely just been getting settled in Toronto and just getting like a foothold here before, trying to worry too much about anything outside of here. But now that I'm getting that and starting to feel like I have figured out my place here and sort of had a minute to catch my breath, I'm definitely looking forward to booking some tours. I've got friends scattered all across the continent. Like, I'd love to just get out and see everybody, and yeah, and just like experience, different places and different people. It's always a fun time. So definitely on the horizon.
Okay, so are you picturing kind of like a one person punk rock tour, kind of, or
I'd probably put it together with at least one other comic, if not a couple. The last
okay,
uh the last proper comedy tour I did with two other comics, which was a good setup because we took turns headlining each night and took turns hosting each night. So whoever was the first comic up would also come back in between comics. So they'd do a set off the top and then introduce the other two. And then we'd switch. So then the next night that guy would be headlining and I'd be opening or whatever. And so it worked out well because we all got to do a bit of everything, but it's like you have a lot of control over the tour when you just bring your own show and you're the whole show start to finish. And also it helps with just like traveling and travel costs, right? You can split the
yeah,
gas, split the or whatever, and it's um not to can we redact my name dropping? Don't support them. I don't know
yeah.
why I think that as an example. We literally stayed in one ever. And I yeah, don't support them.
Okay, yeah, we're we're trying. I totally get that. We're always trying to tell our relatives and that, don't stay there. Don't, because
Yeah,
it's because yeah,
they're evil.
my wife's got relatives who are always like, oh, you've got to go to the I can, and no.
Yeah, that is never my first option. We literally stayed in one once, and I forget the reasoning, but it was like it was our last option, and that was just yeah. But generally, I'd rather just crash with people. I mean, if we can just find somewhere free to crash, that's the ideal. But I think at this point in time, it's more ethical to just get a shitty motel room than it is to support. So if
Yeah.
that's what we had to do, that would be more likely. Yeah.
I'm wondering where I can cut there so that I can get that sentence in there.
You don't even have
But
to
not to,
redact it. You could just leave the whole thing in where and include the part where I say, never mind.
yeah. All right, it'll work out. It's going
Yeah.
to cut together some way. And
Or do you want me
so,
to just re-say that whole thing again? I
yeah,
forgot what I just said. Something about, when you're touring with other comics, it makes it easier to share travel costs. So you can share your accommodations and gas and don't support Airbnb.
okay. All right. Something will work from that. That's yeah. So, okay. So touring, and you've got the album coming out. There's the video version of it too. What else is happening that you can talk about? There's the TV show, but
Yeah, I'm gigging a lot, just
okay.
performing as much as I can all over the city, and it's been really good. I really didn't know what to expect moving to Toronto, and I was definitely a bit intimidated by this city when I moved here, and I was kind of worried that it was going to be tougher to break into the scene here than it has been. I was worried that people were going to be like snobby and cliquey and mean. That was just my perception of big city folks, but they haven't been. They've been really lovely, and I've been just feeling really at home here, and I'm really grateful for that, and grateful for how quickly I was able to make contacts and how readily I'm getting booked, and it's been just really encouraging and been really fun. So yeah, I'm all over the city. I'm doing all kinds of different bars, different clubs, working with all different bookers and all different comics, and yeah, most of them have been really great. I recently got to open for Sam Talent, and that was very exciting. He's kind of a bigger name from the States. He wrote a book called Running the Light, and uh it's achieved like quite the amount of acclaim. A lot of big name comics are touting it as the best book ever written by stand-up comedy or about stand-up comedy. I think that was a direct quote from Doug Stanhope, but a lot of comics are really giving it like big praise, and I'm in the middle of reading it myself, and it is really good. So that was a big opportunity. That was very exciting. I'm trying to think of what other exciting shows I've had lately. I mean, there's been lots. There's been lots of really cool comics I've connected with. Like I don't know if you know Garrett Jameson. He's got a show on Banger TV about it's called Heavy Metal Hitchhiker. It's
No,
pretty self-explanatory, but
okay.
it's a show that he wrote and stars in where he's a heavy metal hitchhiker. The premise is that he has to some band leaves their guitar I think at like a road stop or something, and he's gonna fulfill his dreams of being a roadie. He thinks if he can get this guitar back to this band, that they'll hire him on as their roadie, and then it's just his series of misadventures in trying to do that. It's a really funny show, and
Okay.
yeah. So when I first moved to Toronto, I didn't know him, but I knew who he was, and I knew we had this connection of both being connected to like the music world and the comedy world. He used to tour with the band Ken Mode and open for them on
Okay.
their show dates on tour. Um, so he was like one of the first people I connected with, and we're becoming close friends. He's actually going to be performing on my album release party, so that's really exciting.
Okay. So the album release party is what else do you want to tell people? What else should the world know?
Hmm. Honestly, I think I just gave you the highlights, I think, of everything
Yeah.
I can think of that I've got going on right now. Uh, oh, I will plug. I mentioned that I have 18 different side hustles. I will plug my friend Preston's guitar pedal company. They're called Wounded Paw, and I have been building circuit boards for his guitar pedals for the past little while. So that's been a really
That's
fun. It's been fun for me to like learn how to do that, and it's also been a fun way for me to stay connected to the music world despite not being in bands these days or booking shows anymore. And his pedals are really sick. Like they're really good pedals. They've got a really good reputation. And the reason he brought me on board is that he was getting more orders than he could fill. Like people are loving these pedals. So yeah, check them
okay.
out.
And that's Preston Wounded Paw. I'm trying to remember the name of his old band. He had a amazing
Yeah,
band in
he's been
the
in a lot of bands. He's currently in a band called, he's currently in two bands. One's called Last Agony and one's called Armed and Hammered. He
oh,
more,
okay.
most recently, just before Last Agony was in IDNS. You might be thinking of that band.
No,
Now I feel
I,
bad that I can't off the top of my head list every band he's ever been in.
it's
There's been a bunch.
oh yeah, he's been doing it since
Oh yeah.
this band was around maybe 92, 93 or something.
Oh, that far
It's
back. Okay, yeah.
yeah,
I know that I
one
know
of the
this, and I
first.
feel like a jerk for not being able to think of it right now. Uh,
that's that's gonna be half the podcast. It's gonna be like,
just trying to remember Preston's bands.
yes.
And I would look it up, but I'm filming this on my phone. Um, yeah, you check out all of Preston's bands. They were all really sick.
Yeah, they are. It's
Yeah. And he's done a lot. Like he's been a huge part of the Toronto punk scene for a very long time. He used to run a record label. He used to book and promote shows, and he used to clean up the streets of Nazi fucking riffraff. Like he's been, a serving member of the punk community for a very long time. Really good guy.
okay. So we'll leave it at support Preston.
Yeah,
That's
I
is
like
there
that.
there was something in there, but I mean, I think we've nailed everything that you're doing right now and everything that's coming up. And
Yeah, and as far as
yeah,
checking out my comedy goes, like my name is spelled the same way on all the platforms. So if you just spell it correctly with a Z, so it's Bonez Poley, that's my handle on all the different social medias. The main one I'm using these days is Instagram. I have a hard time finding the time and emotional strength to stay frequent on all the platforms all the time, but I do have handles on all of them, and I do have a website, which is bonespoley.com. So if you're interested in finding out more about the album or the album release party or anything else I'm up to, tour dates, anything like that, your best places to find those are going to be probably my website and my Instagram and my link tree, which you can also get to from both of those places, or they all kind of link to each other. So yeah.
okay. Bonez Poley, that's your real name, and Mr. and Mrs. Poley are big supporters of your
They are not.
well, okay. That's not nice to hear, but
Yeah, I've made peace with it.
yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, thanks for talking to me again, and hopefully I get there for
That'd be
you
great. It'd be
come
great to see you
through the
again.
neighborhood here and play
Yeah.
because
Yeah, when I start branching out and setting up some tours or even just, yeah, some out of town shows, I would love to make it up that way for sure.
yeah, and I'd love to see you here. So that's awesome.
Cool. Yeah, well, we'll be in touch for sure.
Yeah, thanks for talking to me again.
My pleasure.
And
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
yeah, no problem.